All right, today we're going to talk about trend lines and why they're important. Right now I'm on the weekly chart and I'm on the BLX, so this shows more data. I like using a weekly for trend lines. It's just really helpful in comparison to like using a daily trend line. Um, the longer the time frame, the stronger the trend. Just keep that in mind. So like you can do it on a monthly or weekly or 3 day. Um, Dailies work too. 4 hours work too. I just really like to use the longer term time frames. So if you want to draw a trend line, you can go here, pick the trend line here. I'm not going to start over here just because this data was really new. There are trends here. Like for example, if I connected these two together and went all the way up here, once it broke this trend, we had issues for a really long time. So it went parabolic, and then we broke the trend, and then we were in a bear market for like a year or so. But this is a good one to use right here. So the trend started right here, and you always want to the you want to have two connections. So this is one, this is two, or three connections is better. And then the trend continued from there. So this went lower here, but it ended up closing higher, so the trend is still good. So it tagged this trend, missed this trend, and then once it broke the trend and closed below the trend, confirmed it with another candle. Then we had consolidation for quite a while here. And during consolidation, you can also use the wicks here as well. So we consolidated here for a little while, and then we continued an uptrend here. You can draw a trend here. Once we closed below that trend, we had confirmation. We had more time of consolidation. And then you can draw a trend line here to here, connect those 2 points. Some people use wicks, some people don't. Wicks tell a story. It tells a story that we got bought up when it tagged this line here. So that just says there's strong support there. And then it bounced again and it created another trend up. So you'd grab that lower candle, and right here it looks like it continues the trend, but that's such a sharp drop. I mean, that drop was 70%, something like that. $79. So then that just means we might be breaking this trend. So we closed below the trend, and then we dropped another 50% from this wick down from this candle. So we got bought up, and then we dropped back to those lows. And then we consolidated for a while. So then you can draw another trend here. Grab that point. Since that was bought up so quick, I'm going to use the candle here, not the wick, and then we continue the uptrend here. So you would want to draw a trend line here. It got bought up right here, went parabolic, came down, tested the trend line, got bought up, broke below, and then said, hey, we're going to have a problem here. So we had consolidation for quite a long time. You can even draw trend lines on the top to see resistance. So let's use this top up here. Oops. Okay. So that just means that there's resistance at this trend line. So we sold off here, we bounced, almost touched it, we bounced all the way down, came back, rode along it for a little while, and then had this huge candle here, which said, hey, we're having a problem. Continued down, came up, tagged it, continued down, and then consolidated for a while. We broke above it, and what you normally see here on longer trend lines, you can even draw like a bull flag here or another pattern. and then it normally comes up and then scares everybody, comes down and tests it, and then gets bought up right there. So we had two confirmation candles here, two weeklies that said, hey, this trend line support is good, we're going to go on a rally from here. So then we went up, consolidated for a while. You can draw trend lines like this too. And then once we broke above it, confirmed, we went on a rally, came back down, tested that line, consolidated, and then went up. So you can draw another trend line here. And then we just kept going up, testing the trend line up, and we made a new trend. Bitcoin goes parabolic, so then it makes a new trend here. See how we closed below this trend line here, but then we got bought up? That's why you want to wait for confirmation. So if there was another candle that closed below here, so this candle closed below and then this candle closed below, if it would have closed below, we probably would have went sideways or down. But it came back up, had a bullish engulfing candle. This green one here completely covers this candle in buy pressure. Comes up, tests the trend line, comes up, doesn't quite test the trend line, makes a new trend here. And then creates a new parabolic trend here, and then another one here. And then we tested it, and then we closed below it. We came back up. It held as resistance, and then we just kept continuing down. But you can see all these trend lines were tagged, and then they were bought up, and then sold off. And then we start having an issue. Okay, so on this last one here, you can draw a trend line here. This is the most recent bear market that we had. You can draw a trend line right there, I would say. And then we closed above it, and then we closed below it, and then it caused another problem. This right here broke the trend. But you can also have another trend line here. Closed above it, closed below it, and then we stayed below it. The trend line's not quite accurate. Okay, there we go. And then we broke below. So this created a pattern here as well, and then we broke below this pattern. Said we're going to have some issues. We closed below it. Some big pattern like this, if we close below, that's pretty bad sign. And then we consolidated down here. We created a new trend from this point right there. We went parabolic into a new trend here, sold off up here, mainly because this is that was a huge amount of resistance right here. So let's put it horizontal right there. So this is resistance because all these candles closed above it in the past. And then it tagged that, sold off, and then retraced quite a bit. Retagged this trend line because it never tested it here. Came back down and tested it. And now we're up in another trend here as well. You could have drawn one here, and then we closed below it, and then consolidated for a couple weeks, and then broke past, created a whole new trend. So trend lines are really helpful. You want to use like stochastics RSI and the RSI MACD to kind of understand. Are we going to bounce off this level? You can even have trends in the MACDs and whatnot. Let me see if I can put that on here. Let's try this out. Okay. So yeah, like you can draw trends on the stochastics RSI. So we tagged it here, got bought up. We might come back down and test it and see. And you can also have it on just the RSI too. So you just look for trends like that. And currently we are testing that trend line. So there's a lot of sell. It looks like there's a lot of sell pressure here. We're getting a light green, a lower on the histogram, lower bar on the histogram, and then we're getting a cross here, which isn't good. So we might come down and test. If we start breaking trend lines, that's not, obviously that's not good. But you can do it however you really want. You can even do a trend line up here. You just want to have 2 or 3 touches. Two's good, but 3's better. So we continued on this downtrend, and then we broke it. We had a fake out and then came back down and made a new trend line. So pairing trend lines is helpful. Pairing support and resistance is helpful as well. Like we can look at ETH here too. Oops, here it is. Okay, so let's go to ETH and get rid of this stuff that I have on here. Okay, so like a trend line for ETH would be, start here. And then we consolidated. Once we broke below it, we consolidated and then created a new trend line. And then kept going up from there. We did have a trend line here that was creating resistance. And then we created another trend line here that was creating resistance. Didn't close 2 candles below. And then we closed above. We had a really good rally, creating another trend. Came back down and then created a whole new trend here. You can even draw it all the way through if you see congruence here. And then once we broke above it, we went on a rally. So there's several different ways that you can draw trends. Hopefully this was helpful. Just remember to take 1, 2 points, 3 points, and then draw your trend line from there. Let's draw one more trend line on the stochastics. Make sure they touch. And it looks like we've broken this trend here. So depending on if we create a new trend or whatnot happens in the next couple weeks or so, it looks like we're testing some kind of support here. So trend lines are just another indicator to use that's really helpful to understand the price action of Bitcoin or altcoins. Altcoins are a little bit harder to draw trend lines because they're more parabolic and they're just more volatile, but using trend lines on Bitcoin is really helpful for projecting future price action. So just remember the trend is your friend. If it's in a downtrend, be careful not to catch falling knives. If it's in an uptrend, you're more likely to make money in an uptrend on a bounce of a support line. Doesn't always work, but it's one indicator that I like to use pairing with stochastics and then RSI and sometimes MACD. So yep, that's pretty much all I've got for trend lines. Yep, that's it. Thanks.